welcome to this recap of 2021 on my YouTube channel, Penchant Social. So it's fabulous to be able to share this with you because I've had lovely comments back, especially from more the older transgender woman, to say that these are helpful, but I'm hoping too that they are helpful to the whole community as each and every one of us goes on our own very unique journey to finding our own authenticity. There can be no doubt that looking back, no matter who you are, and reflecting is always helpful, just to look over your shoulder and see where you have come from. Because I think a number of us are just trapped in feelings of doom and gloom and no hope. And I get it completely. And I think we all are to some degree. But I do feel that it's how you think about those things which makes the difference. And to have something in your mind which gives you something to aim for, hope to aim for, which makes you not take the highway to doom and gloom, the highway of fear, but instead, and it is a cobbled road, you take that harder, twisty, winding, cobbled road to love and joy. It's the harder way to go because that's the way we're naturally wired. So in this session, I'm going to go through a number of key areas. We'll look at the anniversaries I've had. We'll look at the meds that I've been on through 2021. I'll talk about general things. I'll give you a recap on relationship matters because I know a number of us struggle in that area. I'll talk a little bit about professionally what I'm doing because I think that's interesting to know how we are accepted in our career circles. I will tell you about my practice. I think that's important. I think people developing practices in today's difficult times are really important. And I'm not saying my practice is right for you. All I'm saying is I have a practice which keeps me focused on where I want to go. And then I'll look ahead into 2022 with you and just give you some ideas of where I see that going, because I see it's a year of complete regeneration for me, and I have to say I'm extremely excited by it. So that's what I'm going to touch upon. You'll have to excuse my teeth. I'm having Invisalign treatment, which I'll talk about in a little while. Sometimes find it difficult to talk without clacking, so I thought I'd leave them in anyway. I'm not going to take them out because this is important to me. Anyway, so that's it. So let's begin then and just have a look at key dates that have passed in 2021 and what they have meant to me. So in 2021, 3 dates came and went, and you wonder, they're important dates in my journey, my transformation, and you do wonder whether you should celebrate them, and I think you should. at the very least, inwardly yourself. And if you can celebrate them with others, that's great as well. The first that I would like to mention, obviously, is that tipping point, the moment in time you take your HRT prescription. It's an incredible moment. It's an incredible moment, and I still get goosebumps reading stories of other transgender people when they begin their medical, their journey of drugs, because that's what they are at the end of the day. Their estrogen, their anti-androgens, their progesterone, their cyproterone, whatever it is, that they're on the spiralactone. That heady cocktail that means so much to us. And, let's be under no illusion. Yes, they bring joy to us, but boy, is there risk associated with them, because they're not directly meant for people like us. They're being adapted to help us. But our need, our desire to transition, to be our authentic self is so great that risk is minuscule compared to that need to realize yourself. So I began my journey in 2018, December 2018. So last year, I celebrated 3 years of HRT treatment, and it's just been fabulous. What have I seen change? Lots, but I think more than anything, emotional change of how I think, how I react, and just how I feel. And it really is disappointing when you read about so-called people in prominent positions, and I won't mention any because I just generally don't think it's helpful, saying that, it's a biological difference that separates men and women, when it clearly isn't. It clearly isn't. It's a very lazy conversation. It's a very lazy argument, because as the days go on, neuroscientists, psychiatrists, psychologists are discovering changes in the way the human body is constructed. If biology were the only consideration, then maybe the argument holds some water, but it isn't. There is the psychology, there is the pathology, there is the other aspects of the human condition, the neurology, how we are wired and how that wiring changes. All of those things constitute a man or a woman, and it's not binary. There's a continuum. And we all know there are men who are extremely effeminate. We know there are women who are extremely masculine. So these arguments, which are peddled in our national press, that's it. If you're not born with a womb, a uterus, then you're not a woman, is for me rather foolish, is an expression of ignorance. So going back to my point, beginning your HRT journey is your starting point to be your feminine self in your thoughts, in your emotions, and in your feelings. And that's as much a part of being a woman as those physical aspects, which have such importance, but they're not the entire story. And I think that's why celebrating your start of HRT is so important. It is so important. So I'll get down to meds later on in this, but at the moment I'm on triptorelin. I take that every 3 months. That's for my testosterone blocking medication. And I'm on an estradiol patch for my estrogen, and I'm pleased to say that my estrogen is now down into lower acceptable levels. So no longer taking cyproterol, no longer taking spironolactone, no longer taking progesterone for breast development. We'll touch upon that as well in a moment. So that's the first anniversary that took place last year. The other one which happened was my second year living my authentic life as Penny. That was celebrated in August, at the end of August. So that's 2 years. And do you know, I was just thinking the other day, I struggle to look back now and remember my previous self. It's difficult. It really is. No, I don't want to be quite honest with you. When I get to relationships, I'll talk a little bit about my divorce. But I had a real epiphanal moment there. In as much as I had to sign the decree absolute for the divorce, and it really did twist me internally. Emotionally, I struggled with it for a while, but then, you know, it was a case of saying, well, it's just a piece of paper. This is bureaucracy. It doesn't change one iota who you are in here. So sign it. Write whatever name you want to write on it. It doesn't change you. And when I got over that thought process, I felt wonderful. I could have signed anything. It had no meaning to me at all. It's done. It doesn't change the way I feel about the woman I married. She is still, in my eyes, a fantastic woman. And my love for her will never lessen. I understand why we are where we are, but that piece of paper that came through for me to sign was nothing more than bureaucracy. It doesn't change how I feel in my heart for her. And I think it's being able to differentiate those things in your mind really helps you a lot, because getting twisted with some of these things, and as I say, taking that highway, whoosh, off to fear, isn't the right thing to do. So that was the second anniversary, 2 years living as me. And then the third one was my 1 year anniversary at the end of November for my breast augmentation, which you can't see anything here, but you know, despite the fact I couldn't afford it, it's probably the best investment I've ever made, and I have no regrets about it at all. It's an argument I had with Chalmers GIC. I think they talk about equity. I couldn't afford to have those gorgeous girls at the time, but I did. As my fabulous cousin said to me, you know, if you don't do it now, when are you going to do it? I'll share with you, I'm 63 years of age, and according to statistics in Scotland, average age of death is 77. So I only have 14 years to go, if you look at it that way. So I'm all in, girl. I'm all in, and I'm going to be my authentic self. Not that I'll be up to my eyes in debt. I have to manage that carefully, but you know, there are some things which you do have to consider how you're going to go about getting what you need. And it's not what you want, it's what you need to be your authentic self. So 1 year anniversary, I went in having 2 implants at 43 cc's, 430 cc's, I beg your pardon. And I came out with a 34, 36 double D E bra size, for those of you who like it in that sense. And I'm absolutely thrilled. And it's a dream. I still look down. I'm a year and a bit on, and I still look down every day. I cannot believe that I have them. It is quite a remarkable thing. So, last year, as far as those key dates are concerned, were just wonderful for me. So, as far as those milestones were concerned in terms of my journey, they were the 3 big things that I wanted to reflect upon. So let's move on, and we'll talk about relationships in this next section. Perhaps before we get into relationships, perhaps just a little bit of perspective around me generally in terms of how I'm getting on in life on my journey. 3 years down the HRT path, and 2 years living as my authentic self. So, I talked a little bit about change of emotion, change of attitude, change of feeling with my HRT. I know there are some people out there who will cringe a little bit on this next piece, but ego, I was an egomaniac in some respects, but an egomaniac with a cab. I could never take that final step because of my vulnerability. I knew around the corner I would have to do this. So taking positions of, let's call it very, very senior levels in organizations, I just couldn't go there. I wasn't, it's funny, I knew it isn't what I wanted in my heart, but my ego said that's where you needed to go. So I battled with ego phenomenally, and my wife would tell you it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all. And I am attempting to write a book, and its working title at the moment is My Big Blue Mercedes, and that probably tells you everything you need to know. I was caught up in the culturescape, the social toxicity of needing to have this, that, and the other. Otherwise, you would be a failure. Yes, I understood that all too well, and I put that ahead of myself because it was a mechanism for me, given I hadn't sport anymore, to distract myself from what I really wanted, and it ultimately, I think, wasn't great for anyone who knew me. It wasn't great at all. So going on HRT has really, really enabled me to bring my ego into check. I'm not saying it's all gone. I wouldn't be so adventurous as to say that, but it's certainly in a different place now to where it was, and for that I honestly am delighted and honestly feel the difference inside of me. Best expressed this way: instead of being right now, I try and be kind all the time. I don't have to be right. I don't need to be right, and maybe that's a maturity thing as well. I really don't. I reward myself more for being kind. And I say reward myself because I think you've got to have mechanisms like that to be able to stay on top of transformations, and you've also got to be an observer of the observed. You are both the observer and the observed, and you observe how you speak, how you feel, how your emotions are, and you course adjust if those things aren't where they ought to be. So the observer and the observed is really, really important, I think, in a transformation journey. So ego, I I wrote a message on Facebook when I saw the protests outside of J.K. Rowling's house a month ago, something like that, I think. And I know my view doesn't resonate with everyone, but I think coming at things from a position of fear, and that's what protest is. Mother Teresa said when she was asked if she would protest against the Vietnamese War, she said no. But she said, if you ask me to come and march for peace, I'll come and join you. Because she wanted to put her energy where it was positive, not where it's negative. And I look at all of this negative energy which surrounds a lot of the stories about the transgender community. And it's just bringing a lot of people down. It really is doing more damage. So, you know, I come at things from a loving perspective now, from my heart. And again, I know that challenges the cockles of some people. But that's who I am now. I will make my way in life through love, through kindness, and through compassion. And I genuinely think that's new. That wasn't me 4 years ago, 5 years ago. But that's where I've got to. And I've sat here when I wrote some of my notes for this, could not think of anyone who's openly said anything detrimental to me, anything. And even if they did, I forgive them. It's a view, and you know, there's a lot to be said about the psychology of childhood, how you're brought up, the culturescape, the programming within you from childhood all the way through to bring you to where you are today. So if somebody says something, I don't take it to heart. I don't take it to heart. I just hope that they can, if they do have a problem with me or people like me, I just will work with them to overcome it. And if I can't, I send them my love. Because I know love will always, always overcome fear. I sent a note to somebody recently, and I said, and I related the quote, that fear knocked on the door, love answered, and there was nobody there. And it's so true. It is so true that love at the end of the day gets you everywhere. And as a consequence, I start my day like that and I end my day like that, grateful for every experience and every person I've met. And it makes such a difference to my general well-being. So something, you know, I would pass on. I joined the Deer Park Ladies Committee, Golf Club Committee, and started to get involved in the community in that way, which I'm absolutely delighted with. And during the course of the past year, made a number of new friends, many dog walkers that I see during the course of the day, but all gorgeous people, all welcoming and so loving with me that it's a fabulous thing. So in my second year, I can say generally and socially, things have been absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And I'm really excited about the next year, but we'll talk more about that in a session down the track. So let's get into relationships, because like many transgender people, rejection by the family is something that affects many of us, and it affects us in different ways. Resentment, bitterness, anger, anxiety about what's coming up. All of those things affect us and affect our health. And if you're not healthy, you know, this journey we're on will take its toll upon you. So understanding those things and coming to terms with them is helpful. And I'm just going to fall back on that crutch of love I use all the time. So I began 2021 ostracized by my near family, and I ended 2021 ostracized, and that's just where they are, and I understand it. I introduced Penny to them when they weren't expecting it, and I have to be accepting of that. But when you look at it with unconditional love, you find that things are easier to cope with, because you're not fighting anger, you're not dealing with situations which are out of your control. You bring it back into your control, and that's critical. And I tell the people at NHS Lothian Chalmers, when you take away control from us, you introduce anxiety, because our future is out with our control. And with anxiety comes all of the difficulties with our health that goes with it, with our psychology, physiology. All of those things take a downward turn. So bringing things back in control, using unconditional love, because I'm sure I love my family. I do. And nothing will ever change that. They can have a view about me, but that doesn't mean I have to have a negative view about them. And therefore, I am in control of my emotions and my feelings, and it's something I suggest to everyone. If you've got family and they're having difficulty, send them your love. Deal with it with your love. Have unconditional love that you had before transitioning, and it will come back. Now, why do I say it'll come back? Because in 2021, I lost my mother. I say I lost my mother. My mother passed. Sorry, it's not as if I lost her in the supermarket. I'm sure not me saying that. She passed at the age of 90 years. And at the beginning of the year, our relationship was icy cold. Very icy indeed. She wouldn't accept me for who I was. She kept referring to me as I was. Pronouns, forget pronouns. But I stayed the course, and I'm proud of that. And cut a long story short, the last few months of her life were the best months she and I ever had together. But I was her daughter, and she respected me, and we had such loving and compassionate conversations that all of the difficulties we had have gone. Never ever. I felt saddened by the relationship we had, but that's all. Again, it was a case of, you just have to understand, people find this unusual, and when people come across things that don't match what's in their head, they struggle with it. So we got over it. And you know, I had, as I said, the most beautiful time with her in those final few months, where I just gave myself up to being there for her. And many a story to tell about Dad, but when she passed, she wanted to pass. She wanted to be with my dad and her family, and we are spiritualists. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later on. And we talked a lot about that, and we talked about it in a very open and honest way. It might seem strange, but she was looking forward to moving on. And I think that was just a wonderful place to be. She didn't fear death, and we could talk about it openly. And when it came, it happened in a very calm and quiet way. And off she went. And even to this day, she's closer to me today than she was in many a year leading up to last year. So I feel close to her every day, and I talk to her every day. So that was a situation that was difficult, but became such a beautiful relationship at the end of the day. To my sister, again, a number of my friends know the difficulty my sister and I had initially, but now we are as close as we've ever been. You know, she has gone through a lot of trauma herself in 2021, and to be there for her is fabulous, absolutely fabulous. So I'm blessed to see that relationship back on track, and then just end this section saying that, you know, I couldn't have made it, and I really think I couldn't have made it without my gorgeous, loving family in Belgium, who have never, ever flinched and have accepted me. And I know there will be some times that were difficult, but they've never made it feel difficult for me. They've always embraced me and loved me, and that's made such a difference as well. So I think my message is, you just stay the course, and you never waver from that very simple word, love, and hold love in your heart. And my experience is you get it back in spades. You really, really do. So I think that's on enough probably on relationships. So let's move on and talk about 2021 medically for me. I said earlier that I've been able to kind of put a cap on my ego, but the key difference I really want to bring out is pushing down on your ego, not being judgmental, not being critical of other people, doesn't stop you being discerning, but you do it in a kind way. And I, from my industrial experience and having worked at various levels in organizations, I know when something is wrong. And I've sensed that since coming back from Canada. People in NHS Lothian probably are fed up with me asking them to bear in mind that I have had experience of care from elsewhere in the world. And I sit here at the end of 2021 and I say it again, the care from NHS Lothian is third world standard compared to what it is in Canada. Recently, I visited Chalmers clinic in Edinburgh, and I went into this palatial building, and the care was awful. Awful. I'm pleased to say I met one doctor, very first doctor, who appeared to have compassion, but the rest of it, not great at all. Compare that with Canada, where my endocrinologist was in this rundown building, yet my care, the investment was in my care, not in the building, not in the facilities, in my care. I felt cared for like I have never felt since coming back here into Livingston under the care and guidelines of NHS Lothian. That's not a criticism, it's an observation, and it's an expression of how their standards of care work. And what I would say is I've tried to simplify things as much as possible with my breast augmentation, so there's no progesterone anymore, although for those watching and aren't able to go down the breast augmentation route, I just remind everybody that the Atlantic surgeon dealing with me said that my breasts, through the use of progesterone, were far more developed than the, shall we say, the standard that he comes across with transgender women coming under his care. So that's I thought that was very interesting to hear and to learn. And he reiterated that on a number of occasions. But we went to triptorelin, which took me off cyproterone and spirolactone. And that, after a few hiccups, seems to be working okay. The dysphoria I suffer with the bits and pieces I carry around with me on a daily basis is manageable. Only just, I would add. And then instead of injecting, I'm now on the patches, which I have to confess, I think are easier. I think I injected for a good number of years, and whilst my estrogen levels were the highest I think ever seen by my endocrinologist, just couldn't believe it, they're now down into sensible levels, and I probably feel as feminine now as well, a lot more than I did then. I think I've just gone to such extreme limits. God only knows what was going on. Anyway, so all good there. But that's the positive side. The real issue that I have been working in 2021 and now working with my MP, who has now up at state level within the Scottish government, is just the whole what's the word I'm looking for? The whole lack of understanding within the gender identity clinic structure, certainly within NHS Lothian, of the care they should be offering, the standards they should be working to, what they should be offering us. And this listing of 700 people, which I learnt about through raising a subject access request through the Information Commissioner's Office in the UK, revealed 700 people in NHS Lothian waiting for surgery. And I believe that is against perhaps a nominal queue time of 208 weeks. That can be reduced down to something like 62, 63 weeks within the provisions of the standards of care laid down by NHS Scotland, NHS England, the General Medical Council. So working with my MP, spent a lot of time in 2021 researching all of this and putting papers together that my MP currently has and is working through the system. So if I have a wish for 2022, is that those papers and the work that has been undertaken will benefit everyone involved with provisioning and receiving care through NHS Lothian. And I just think there's so much opportunity in there for everyone, for the clinicians, the administrative staff within NHS Lothian, get the joy of seeing us progress through and for transgender patients finding their way to their authenticity. And I'm going to say it, but particularly those who are at the later end of their life, who don't have many years ahead of them in which to be their authentic self. And I know that will ruffle the feathers of a few people, but that's how I feel, and I don't think it is unreasonable to express that. So nevertheless, everything in the papers I have written really benefits every transgender patient in the care of NHS Lothian. So what do I hope for 2022? I hope that all of that work and the work that's currently underway will yield positive results for us all within NHS Lothian in the year to come. So medically, that's where I am at. Oh, I should have mentioned my teeth. I've always had a problem with them, always had a problem. So I've been having Invisalign treatment for the past 253 days, I think it is. And it's going well, having it done through the Edinburgh Dental Studio. And they're just absolutely incredible staff. Love them all. And I think only maybe another month or so to go with the stubborn incisor I've got, and I'll be done. So that's me medically. So we'll leave that section there. So we'll do two pieces together, professionally where I'm at, and we'll pick up on my hopes and dreams for 2022. So professionally, I have struggled since I came out of the corporate world trying to get two online businesses going. Both of them were being run on Facebook accounts, and Facebook are still looking at causals for my advertising campaigns being shut down by their AI system. My MP has met with Facebook, which is quite remarkable in and of itself. Again, I've written papers and researched that extensively, and Facebook have taken it away. I'm waiting now for the outcome of their research into what it means to my two businesses. So really, probably from March in 2021, I've been shut down, completely uncompetitive in the advertising space. So I can't offer my services into the global marketplace as I had intended. But, you know, I've been doing lots of work, building up my website, and, you know, really encourage you to go there. And even if I say it myself, there's some great pieces there in the blogs I post, Nourishing Flourishing Minds, which gives you a lot of the neurology. I do a coaching head monologue, which for those of you who like hearing me chat, there's that, and then there is the confidence builder blogs as well. So lots of blogging going on, and go to PennyXxx.com and you'll find me there, and hopefully you will. As I say, there's some really good stuff there. So that's where my business direction has gone in this past year. So waiting to see, but not sitting on my haunches. I've decided that because of my interest in psychology, I'm going to go and do a master's degree in psychology next year, and already joined the British Psychology Society, and want to become an active member in there, promoting the LGBTQ plus community, and just seeking authenticity, and I see so much that could be done differently. I'm a keen believer in health, and the promotion of health rather than dealing with sickness. And I really want to make sure that, COVID, for example, that rather than spending all of our time on frightening people and instilling fear about COVID, we give them very, very simple but very effective things that they can do with sleep, for instance. And don't get me on that. I could do 2-3 hours on sleep. That really, really builds up your immune system, the integrity of your gut, to make you far more capable of fighting COVID than I would say some of these vaccines are. And I've had all my vaccines, and I'm not an anti-vaxxer by any stretch of the imagination. I encourage everybody to get their vaccinations, but I think there's so much more we can do and be helped to do by the powers that be. And I want to be in there influencing as opposed to shouting from the sidelines. So I'm doing my degree next year. I will be trying to influence with that angle of love and compassion many of the transgender debates which are going on at the moment, the LGBT plus debates which are going on, because I've worked with people for 30 plus years in various industries, shipbuilding amongst them, and I don't see the animosity. I really don't, which people talk about. I think a lot of it has to do with how you approach it, and you get back what you give off. So if you give off fear, you give off anger, you give off disdain, that's what you get back. It is what you will get back. Give out love and compassion, guess what? You'll get love and compassion back in spades, as I say. So professionally, that's my direction. So it's a 2-year course. I'll dedicate a lot of my time next year into that, and then begin to think about where I go with that in year 2. So it's a complete change, and I love it. I must admit, I love the whole idea of helping people and enabling them to be their authentic selves in the process. So my career, if you like, my professional career has taken a completely different direction, and I'm so, at 63, I never thought I'd be saying this, I am so excited about it. So I'd say to all of you who are, thinking about, what am I going to do when I transition? It's very simple. What do you want to do? What have you thought about doing? And therefore ask yourself, well, what's stopping you? If you've gone through the struggles of transitioning, I can tell you that's the biggest challenge you'll ever have in your life. The rest pales into insignificance. And I'm always here, always. You can reach me through my website. There's a WhatsApp link on my website. Just ping me a message, and I'm happy to talk to you. I'm happy to chat and try and help you along with your direction. So we'll leave that section there, and we'll get on into the next just now. So I want to talk about my practice. I think this is really important, but I just want to tie it back a little bit into goals for 2022. I recently had a conversation with a transgender girl who's about to go for surgery, and having doubts in her mind about the experience, which is quite traumatic when you think about what's going to happen. But my advice is very, very simple. And it is the same advice I give anybody professionally. Unless you have a vision that pulls you along, the energy associated with that, and life comes down to energy. It's based on energy. If you don't have that vision, you're pushing all of the time, and that's hard. And that's why, as we stand at the beginning of 2022, a lot of people are setting goals, but they'll be setting goals that take them nowhere because they don't have a vision, they don't have a purpose. But when you understand what your vision and your purpose is, then that pulls you along, and it's much easier. And I'm not going to go into the neurology of it, but there is something called a bigger, better offer. And your vision will always lead you to the bigger, better offer in your mind. And for example, why did I transition? If we just go back to the basic question of why did I transition? Why did you transition? Or why are you considering transition? Because you have a vision of yourself as you feel, and that's the key thing, feel you want to be. It's not think you want to be. And for the simple reason, your frontal lobe, your CEO of your brain, the conductor of your orchestra, the power in there is minuscule compared to your subconscious mind. You process in your frontal lobe, in a data center, if we try and relate it to a computer, about 40 megabits per second. In your subconscious, you process 40,000 megabits per second. That's why your subconscious mind will always overrule in time that will that some people talk about in your conscious mind. Weight Watchers is a good example. Weight Watchers say use willpower. Why do they tell you that? Because they want you to keep coming back, because they know willpower only lasts a certain amount of time. And then once willpower is exhausted, back come the subconscious habits, and you're doing all of those things which drove you to Weight Watchers in the first instance. So you have to have a vision. Now, a vision has to be the bigger, better offer. It has to excite you. So whenever you have any doubts, you think of that vision, and it dispels those doubts and it pulls you forward. So my practice, let's get now on to my practice. My practice every day consists of getting up round about 6 o'clock after 7 hours of sleep. Sleep for a mind that is, shall we say, challenged by a transitional life. Challenged by those things going on externally to you. You need your rest. But it needs to be natural rest. Not rest induced by alcohol or medication. It needs to be natural rest. And it's hard. I get that. So my whole life now is based on understanding my sleep and getting my sleep. Then I meditate for about 40 minutes every day. I have an aphorism practice as well. And then I get out round about 6:30ish, something like that. Math, don't add all of this up, because I'm more often up at 5:30, but it's the point I'm trying to get over. I get out, and in the dark of night, I walk alone. And a lot of people said to me, you must be crazy. And I said, no, I do it deliberately. I do it deliberately to address my fear. I walk alone at night because I do not fear being alone. And if you read about me in the local press in the days or weeks to come, you'll know this was not a good piece of advice, but I fear nothing. I fear nothing. And I go and pray on top of a 700-foot hill with my arms outstretched, and I don't give a tinker's cuss what people think about me or what they might say about me in their own limited way. I do what I want to do, and I hold no fear of what people think about me. And it is a challenge in many respects to that. So I address fear. And then the other thing, when I walk back, I'm getting great exercise. First thing in the morning, sets me up beautifully. And then I pick up litter when I go. Why do I do that? Because I used to be terrible for judging people, criticizing people. Now I just pick up litter, and I promise you, I don't have a single thought about why it got there in the first place, or who put it there, and how could they do that? How can they go about their lives leaving litter on the ground? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I just pick it up and put it in the bin sites I know all too well on my walk. So I have overcome judgment. I have overcome this need to criticize. And that's how I've done it. Picking up litter. And I do it in front of people, and I'm sure they're looking at me and they're probably thinking, what is she doing? But I don't explain myself. I go up to the bin ones by a bus stop, and I wish them all a good morning, and they watch me deposit the litter in the bin, and it's lovely, the reaction I get back. It's just gorgeous. So in doing that, I address something else. Now I return home and have my breakfast. I journal. I write a journal every day, and I express gratitude. Gratitude, scientifically proven to generate serotonin in the gut, which gets through the brain blood barrier and really boosts you. It's wonderful. So there's a lot in there, and I'll stop there. But again, if anybody wants to understand more about that, you can get in contact with me. You can leave a comment here in YouTube, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. And I'll very happily talk to you about my practice and how my practice has helped me immensely. And more articles are coming onto YouTube about successful people having a practice. I'm not saying I'm successful in an outward sense. Inwardly, I know I am successful, and I know that practice has been fundamental in getting to where I am today. So that's it. I'm just going to do a summary, and I will draw it to a close. So here we are. We're at the end of my review of 2021. And it's a review, but it's also a record for me personally in terms of what's happened for me in the year, and more importantly, serving you with some of the experiences that I have gone through in these past 12 months. And hopefully, if you can take just one thing from it, and it really doesn't matter whether you're part of the transgender community, the wider LGBT plus community, or you're not in those communities. I hope there's something here. Practice, for example, doesn't matter who you are. I know a lot of people are struggling with anxiety today. More people are depressed today than ever before. More people are lacking in sleep than ever before. And therefore, both of those things, the immune system of society in general is far weaker than it's ever been. And that's why all of these big pharma companies continue to make big profits. I'll stop there, it's not a political pitch at all. But just keep that in mind. If you're wondering why things seem so difficult at the moment, a lot of it has to do with two basic things: nutrition and sleep. So in summary, I think 2021, despite the fact that I'm ostracized, I've lost my mother, the positives, I've said it, haven't I? I lost my mother. My mother has passed. Forgive me, Mum, wherever you are. The positives far outweigh the negatives, and I think it's great. I do, and I know some of you will be looking at this going, how on earth can she be that way? I'm that way because I have made a conscious effort to be positive about my new life. Even at 63, I feel like a child just embarking on a new life, and I feel so buoyed up by it. In fact, a woman stopped me at the gym the other day when I was just dancing around, right? Because I don't have any fear, I just dance around. Oh, she said, you're just full of joy. And I said, I know. And I looked at her and I thought, oh, you poor soul. Come and join me. So anyway, she didn't. She left the gym. So I'm not quite sure what the message was there. But the key thing, I think, is that love and compassion, I've said it so many times, I'll end with it, are the secrets to life. And when fear and anxiety, that highway to fear and anxiety consumes you, that's when you need willpower. That's when you need to go back to your tummy and feel that vision that takes you forward and dispel the fear, anxiety. And I know, again, it's easier said than done, but it takes practice. Everything takes practice. So the sooner you begin having your own practice, the easier, and it's true, the easier you will find a journey of transformation in whatever it is you're doing. So, I've never said this before. If you've enjoyed this and you enjoy my channels, please subscribe. But more importantly, leave a comment. Doesn't matter if it's pants. Just leave me a comment. I have to admit, I'm frustrated with emojis. Tell me nothing. Don't get me to your heart. So leave a comment. I can do something with that. So that's me. I'm done. So until 1 year's time, at the end of 2022, when I hope there is so much good news to share with you, I wish you every success in 2022. And I send heartfelt love from my heart to your heart. Good luck. Bye-bye.